much for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I have a little presentation to share with you all. Let's take a look. Okay, so yeah, my name is Domingo. I'm representing the Kenneth Young Center today, and I definitely wanted to start with something a little bit more interactive. So a quick little icebreaker, and maybe y'all have heard about this one, the rose, thorn, and bud. So pretty much we're gonna each kind of state like a highlight of our day, a thorn, so maybe a challenge that we've experienced, and maybe a bud that kind of shares like a new idea or something that you're looking forward to for today. So I'll go ahead and start. So my rose, I would say my highlight for today was being able to go into the office today and see everybody because we have a lot more people coming in now that we're all vaccinated. And so we were able to like hang out and see one another without our masks. So that was like new. And I think that was like a highlight for me, but also anxiety inducing because I'm like, we haven't done this in so long. So like that was like it was a rose more so for me. A thorn, something stressful is that my bearded dragon is really acting up. So you might be hearing some like scratching at like against glass, and that's my animal. And so then a bud would be like a new idea or something I'm looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to the weekend. I think this has been a long week, and I'm just really excited to just get some R&R. Yeah. Okay, so then I'll popcorn over to, so I have like the little view on the side. I'll popcorn over to, actually, I can't see names. So I'm just gonna say Carolyn. Sorry.
Okay, great. And I'll pause the recording for this part so people can feel expressed to express anything, and then we'll start it again.
It looks like some people are typing in answers too, and that might
Put that down. Okay. So again, my name is Domingo. I'm representing the Kenneth Young Center, and we have locations in Elk Grove, Hoffman Estates, Schaumburg, and Mount Prospect. So at the Kenneth Young Center, we partner with communities to support people of all ages to navigate life's challenges through personalized prevention, intervention, treatment, and recovery. We're here to support you during the COVID-19 crisis, just as we've been honored to serve the community for the last 50 years. Services are available in person, by phone, and through telehealth. A lot of our services are transitioning over to in-person now. Our wraparound programs are focused on safeguarding the mental health and physical well-being of our clients. Now, we have a wide range of different youth services. So we have individual, family, and group therapy, psychiatric evaluation and medication monitoring, 24-hour mobile crisis response for children and adults at risk for self-harm or harm to others, mentoring for youth to practice behavioral management skills in the community, counseling for teens and young adults struggling with substance abuse and mental disorder, alcohol and drug prevention services in schools, community groups, and coalitions, collaboration with local school districts for resource coordination, an LGBTQ center to support and build community for youth and young adults, and we have HIV prevention and support services as well. Our adult services include individual, couple, family, and group therapy, psychiatric evaluation and medication monitoring, rapid assessment and service planning, case management, mental health crisis intervention, psychosocial rehabilitation, substance use prevention and recovery, employment services, transitional living program, permanent supportive housing support services. We have a drop-in center open 365 days per year. We have smart recovery groups addressing substance use, misuse, and addiction, and HIV prevention and support services. For our older adults, we have comprehensive assessments, hospital-based assessments, and nursing home pre-screening, transitional care services to facilitate safe hospital discharge and reduce risk of readmission, advocacy for assessing entitlement benefits, care management, money management, home delivered meals, caregiver supports and counseling, and adult protective service investigation, intervention, and supports for adults with disabilities and older adults experiencing neglect, abuse, or financial exploitation. We also have volunteer opportunities. KYC is grateful for our incredible volunteers who make our program successful. We have a wide range of volunteer opportunities that are available throughout the year. And so I want to talk a little bit about the specific division that I'm a part of at the Kenneth Young Center, because the Kenneth Young Center has multiple divisions. And so the Community for Positive Youth Development is a community coalition operated by Community Collaboration and the Public Resource Development Division at the Kenneth Young Center. And that is what our HIV prevention services and our LGBTQ center falls under. And so under this specific coalition and division, we have many causes that are supported by state and federal funding. So we have substance use prevention, drug-free communities, recovery support services, positive youth development. And I want to talk a little bit more about the public health aspect and the LGBTQ center aspect of our work. So our LGBTQ center is the first and only first-time drop-in center dedicated to serving the Northwest suburbs. And so at our LGBTQ center, which because of COVID, we've done a lot of these things like virtually, but now we're kind of transitioning slowly but surely into more in-person events. So we have young adult hangouts. They've been virtual, but are now like transitioning to more in-person. We have virtual parent support groups. We have rapid HIV testing, youth advisory committee. We have high school drop-in nights and middle school peer groups. And if you have any questions on any of these events, you can always check out our website at the kennethyoungcenter.org. One really cool thing that the LGBTQ crew is coordinating is these annual workshop conferences called Vida X. So I think we're on year 2 doing Vida X. So it is pretty much like a workshop that is done virtually and in person. And this year they're going to be talking about LGBTQ plus 101, inclusive sex ed, and supporting trans youth. So we're going to have an adult virtual session, like a workshop on June 10th. And then on June 11th, we're having the youth in-person workshop. And we're going to have some amazing speakers. So we have Representative Kevin Morrison come in, we have Fallon Fox, and then we have the Pinta family from Pinta Pride. They'll be coming in to do these workshops as well. And then Hannah and Anton, these are some incredible LGBTQ peers that we have over at our center. So they're going to be helping to facilitate the workshops as well. So yeah, if you have any questions on the LGBTQ Center, you can always visit our website or contact them directly at the LGBTQ Center at kennethyoung.org. Now, what I'm really excited to talk about is our HIV prevention services, because I'm one of the HIV prevention specialists over at the Kenneth Young Center. And so I want to talk about our services for HIV prevention and also our campaign Flick Off HIV. So our HIV prevention services, we have service areas in suburban Cook County and also the counter counties. So we have Kane, Lake, DuPage, Will, and McHenry to serve as well. Our audience is the gay and bisexual men who have sex with men and trans women ages 13 and up. We offer HIV prevention services to all races and ethnicities, but specifically prioritize Black and Latinx MSM and trans women due to the disproportionate impact of HIV transmissions on these communities. We do not deny services to anybody who doesn't fall under that category, but we are specific when it comes down to delivering certain deliverables, such as condom and lubricant distribution. So we do distributions of just safer sex kits, but they have to be distributed to spaces that are frequented by the LGBTQ population. And so that's one thing that would be more specific. But our other services are rapid HIV testing. We do that in the Cook and the Collier counties. We have gonorrhea and chlamydia testing, where we only do that in the Cook County area. We have outreach and education, both counties. Condom and lubricant distribution are both counties. Linkage to care both as well. And HIV navigation services are specific to the Collier counties. And so those services are pretty much helping people who are living with HIV stay in adherence to their medication. So it's like frequent check-ins with these patients, as well as people who are on a preventative pill called PrEP for HIV. So just making sure that we're checking in with these clients to like just make sure that they're adhering to their medication. That's what HIV navigation services is all about. Let's see. And so our goal is to provide risk reduction support for those high risk and living with HIV by providing free internal and external condoms, lube and dental dams, providing free HIV testing and counseling, promoting PrEP, NPEP, and HIV treatment, and free sterile syringes. Those things are things that we promote. We don't necessarily prescribe those things to folks because we're not a clinic. So that's where linkage to care comes in. We pretty much link people to the specific treatment that they're looking for or that they need, or the PrEP pill. So like the pre-exposure prophylaxis, if they need another preventative measure on top of condoms, we link them to certain clinics that are able to provide those things to the patients. We provide comprehensive sexual education in physical and virtual platforms. We provide linkage to holistic care, peer support and outreach. We partner with local establishments and or online spaces where our audience gathers in order to promote or provide HIV prevention services. We also reimagine and implement programs and events within our space and within community spaces as well, while prioritizing COVID-19 precautions. We have social media campaigns and outreach through platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we also do outreach on gay dating apps just to make sure that is another avenue of like getting the word out and getting people to sign up for free appointments. And so all of these services are funded by the Illinois Department of Public Health, by the Public Health Institute of Metropolitan Chicago, and the Illinois Public Health Association as well. So we have multiple testing locations. We have testing locations in Schaumburg. So we're at the Trickster Cultural Center once a week. We're at our LGBTQ Center consistently once a week as well, but we have very flexible appointment slots for all of these locations. And then we have in Naperville, we're over at 360 Youth Services Transitional Housing location once a month. We're at the Hinsdale Unitarian Church once a month as well. We are over in Evanston once a week, and that's at the Connection for the Homeless Transitional Housing location. And we're also over in Woodstock at the Pioneer Center and the Pioneer Center Child and Family Center every first Monday of the month. So we have multiple locations that we're at consistently, and we're able to provide free STI testing, and we do condom distribution as well. And so I want to talk a little bit about the campaign, Flick Off HIV. So we have our services, and then we also have a campaign to kind of promote our services. So kind of want to go over the goal, the mission, and what Flick Off HIV is all about. So our goal is to provide free comprehensive sex education with a focus on queer identities, community care, and social and pleasure advocacy. We also provide free HIV testing and counseling, peer support, sexual health resources, and linkage to holistic care. There is a sense of urgency to serve Black and Latinx communities, such as men who have sex with men, queer folks, trans folks, and non-binary folks, due to the disproportionate impact and inequities in HIV transmission, specifically seen among these communities. We give special consideration to those communities within any of the risk groups that we serve. Our mission is to defend and empower the lives of folks affected by HIV in our health services and everyday work by flicking off new HIV transmissions, inaccessibility to treatment, prevention, and education, health disparities, stigma and shame, AIDS-related deaths, discrimination, HIV criminalization, and we recognize that social justice barriers are a public health issue, systemic racism is a public health issue, trauma is a public health issue, oppression is a public health issue, lack of safety is a public health issue, institutional violence is a public health issue, Inequity is a public health issue, and accessibility is a public health issue, and that all of these issues are intersectional with the work that we do as HIV advocates. Given these unprecedented times, the Flick Off HIV campaign supports all who are struggling against injustice and inequity. Our very mission to defend and empower the lives affected by HIV in our health services and everyday work is integral to advocating for equity, justice, and access to care for all. In this time of pain, struggle, and uncertainty, we are reminded that the goals towards improved health and well-being for those at highest risk for HIV is intertwined with our work towards justice and liberation. We see the effects of inequity and social barriers and division in the lives of the people we serve every day, especially among those who are marginalized and discriminated against because of the color of their skin. We will continue to defend our clients and community by flicking off what is most harmful to us and by delivering the care and compassion everyone deserves, knowing that there is much more work to be done and a dire need for healing. And so to learn a little bit more about the campaign and more education about the services that we provide through our HIV prevention program, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at FlickOffHIV. We also have a hashtag as well. And then this is just an example of some of like our upcoming events that we have. So we do every single month, every third Thursday of the month, we have Post for Condoms. And that is where we kind of do a screening of the Netflix show called Pose. And Pose kind of talks about ballroom culture and the effects of HIV during the 80s and the 90s on specific queer communities. And so we do a Pose screening along with free STI testing, and folks are able to just kind of hang out in the LGBTQ center. We barely just started last month. We started to do this back in person, but before it was like virtual. And so how that went about was pretty much, we did a virtual screening, like on our, with, what is it? The screen sharing, like on Zoom. And then we had people sign up for appointments, and then that would pretty much be like the whole session. And then let's see. And then we also have every first Friday of the month. So we just had our very first queer pool and STI testing night where people can come and play pool and then also get tested for STIs. And so we kind of try to make sure that we're kind of intertwining just like normal everyday like activities along with STI testing to kind of normalize it and destigmatize it as well. And then we're also hiring for more peers to provide HIV prevention services. So if you know of anybody within the area who's interested, please have them reach out to us because we are looking for more peers. And that's all I have for today. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I am totally willing to answer any questions that you guys have.
I have a quick question sort of about some of the stuff you were talking about at the beginning outside of the LGBTQ stuff. So yeah. I really love all the programming that you guys are doing. I didn't realize you had that much going on, so that's awesome. But I still provide supervision for newer therapists at Streamwood Hospital. And we often get parents who need help with ICG grants, so like the specialized grants to help get extra money to help with special services for kids like that. Often, in this case, it's for residential programming. Kenneth Young, I know, had someone who will help Kenneth Young KYC clients with that paperwork because it's quite involved and can take a while. Do you know what department or to whom that? I actually have a kiddo right now that needs help with that, so.
Yeah, actually, I would contact the Elk Grove office for that. Just the main number, somebody will be able to transfer you over to the right person. I don't have like the right extension or anything, but I know that the Elk Grove office should be able to answer your question. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say I thought it's also like branded really well and like I felt like I was watching like a very fancy campaign and all that. So it was very like, I don't know if you all came up with some of that or if it's part of like I'm sure some of it's like a larger national thing or whatever, but I was very catching to like the public, and I'm sure it helps get people in the doors to access those services and stuff too. So
yeah, actually the campaign is completely original
oh
for
wow, okay.
Kenneth Young Center.
So all those materials, like you all just made all of that yourself?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
wow.
that was mainly all me. So I have
You're
a
awesome.
background in graphic design. And so I kind of have been able to just like really go wild with this type of campaign. And it was really fun because actually in the beginning, I came up with Flick Off HIV, like in response to just all the like social conflicts that were going on last year. And then we had like the election and there was COVID and there was just so many things going on where we would also have to be providing HIV prevention services. And it is such a stigmatized thing overall, and like people are still being affected by it. So it's very much a campaign that's kind of like putting respectability politics aside and saying, look, like this is still an issue. We're still needing more help. And so that's why we came up with like the overall name, like Flick Off HIV. Like
so you just made that up and it's just a local campaign?
Yeah, it's Kenneth Young's campaign, Flick Off HIV. It's funny because this is what the original logo looked like, but then because we are funded by Illinois Department of Public Health, they said, oh no. they said no. But it was like a straight up middle finger.
I was assuming it was a play on a different F word, but I wasn't 100% sure. So that's
no, it's like literally like giving the bird to this problem that has been going on in our communities for so long. And so it's because we are funded under the Illinois Department of Public Health. They said you got to think of a different logo, and so I did
the Band-Aid thing instead.
Yeah. So we were able to kind of reshift the imagery, and it also is actually like thinking about it too, like by reshifting the imagery, I think it's a little bit more strategic too, because we have to be aware that some of our community partners are not necessarily aware of how problematic the HIV epidemic is, especially to our community. So we have to like kind of show grace for those folks and also show them imagery that could be appealing for them so that they could bring it on to like other folks as well in our communities that we're really trying to like target. So it's like a strategic move, but then also I was like, man, like that'd be cool.
So I have a question. So I was listening to the podcast Call Your Girlfriend, and they had actually someone on last week talking about the comparison of like the HIV epidemic and the COVID-19 pandemic, and how a lot of people feel like, well, we're over the pandemic because they have the vaccine or they're like moving on, and like not really recognizing how like it's like ravaging like Central and Southern America or South America, sorry, and all these things, and just kind of comparing the two. And so, I think in your work, not all of us, I think, are like specialists or have a deep understanding of HIV, especially a lot of the young people that we work with, like weren't alive, and so what are some like either trends that you're seeing that we should be aware of as providers, things that might surprise us, or any words of wisdom that you have for us to like continue to talk about this and like really keep the fact that like this is still happening, right? It's not something from the past.
Yeah, I think it's always like when talking about HIV, especially like to youth who may not know, unless they like tune in to like, there's a lot of like great shows going on that kind of like talk about the history of like what has happened with our communities, and HIV is a huge impact in a lot of our work and our history. And so I think that it's important to just kind of just stay adamant about the importance of STI testing and let them know that, maybe they've heard that it's like a death sentence, but it's not anymore. That's something that when talking about HIV or when talking about AIDS, it's always like super negative because people think like, oh, people are still like dying from this. And some people are, but not to the extent of how it used to be because of access to treatment. So I would say like just, yeah, like it's not necessarily it's not a death sentence anymore. And there are plenty of state and federal programs that kind of help people get the treatment that they need and also the preventative options that they need. So if people need an extra barrier to HIV, there's options like PrEP, which is like a once a day type of pill. And then the treatment isn't as terrible as it used to be. Like before, they would have to take like cocktails worth of pills in order to like have that, like the ability to get to a very low viral load. But now it's just on, it's like a couple pills and the side effects aren't that bad anymore. So like people can live long and happy sexual lives living with HIV today. I think that's like always important to tell people, because they, you know, it's not like how it used to be.
Thanks. And then what clinics are you linking folks up with? I know that we used to refer to Open Door Health Center a lot, and I wasn't sure if they were still open, or what are some of your partners for prescribing?
Yeah, so honestly, for like prescriptions, we do over, so we still partner with Open Door. They are open. Greater Elgin Family, they have locations outside of Elgin that prescribe that. Amita Health also does the prescription of treatment. And so those are like our main partners for right now. But also like if people like, for those are our main partners for like PrEP because they have access to PrEP. But if people are outside of those areas, I'm able to like look up on hiv.gov like where their nearest like treatment provider would be. And so that's where I would refer them to.
I just want to say thank you for presenting today. This is very interesting. We're 50 years too at 360 Youth Services. And so when you showed us the information about your youth drop-in center for LGBTQ, I was really blown away. There's not a ton of those in Illinois. So I would like to hear a little bit more about how that goes and if you have the opportunity to provide education for Flick Off to our youth that go to that drop-in center. I've been watching Pose this weekend myself, so it's a great show, and I'm thinking about the young people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you want, I could definitely link you with our lead at the LGBTQ Center so they can kind of flesh out more detail the different services that we have, because I do the HIV prevention segment in the LGBTQ Center, but we have a whole we have a person that like leads it. Their name is Donna, and they like pretty much like help coordinate like all the different programs that's going on. So I could definitely connect you with that person so that maybe that your students could like learn a little bit more about the center.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your work. You know, like we haven't really had a youth focused HIV like prevention program in a while that's so robust. So I really appreciate you sharing all that and putting together those slides for us.
Yeah, of
Any
course.
other questions?
I was gonna say, if you wanna email me any of those like nice little infographics you have of all the different programs, I can put them on the community network social media and kind of boost that for people to see as well.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I'll go ahead and send those over to you.
And as